Dodrio is my favorite Pokemon for some reason. It's also extremely bad. Worse than that, it's kind of boring. This is just one of many normal flying type bird Pokemon in the series, and it's not even that distinct among this already unexciting group. At least Swellow has the ability Guts, which is really good offensively. Braviary has Defiant, which is very good at countering Intimidate in doubles battles. And Staraptor can hit very hard with Reckless. Dodrio, on the other hand, has Run Away, which has no competitive use. Early Bird can sometimes wake you up a little bit faster, very exciting. And Tangled Feet is your other ability option, which grants double evasiveness if you're confused. That is pretty much nothing. So why would this be my favorite Pokemon in a franchise full of so many varied and awe-inspiring creature designs? From imposing dragons, to time-bending legendary cosmic beings, to marketable cute mascots. Why in the world do I like Dodrio? I don't really know, to be honest. As a child, I was always drawn to this guy. Sometimes kids just arbitrarily decide something is their favorite based purely on vibes. And maybe that's just stuck with me for no particular reason. It's a funny three-headed bird made of spheres, and for some reason, I find some magic in the fact that perhaps this is just how a normal bird looks in the Pokemon universe. There are many other of these generic normal flying type birds in the game, but most of them just look like ordinary birds you'd see in real life. The fact that Dodrio is just the slightest bit fantastical is a subtle way to make me feel like I've been transported to somewhere else. I think there is an elegance to Dodrio and how it is just that little bit different to a normal bird. Dodrio is also the only Pokemon to ever win a Grammy Award, which I consider to be rather impressive. What has Dodrio ever done in competitive Pokemon though, if anything? You might be surprised to learn that in some of the older Pokemon generations, Dodrio was not the worst thing on the planet. It may be a plain and simple Pokemon, but sometimes that's exactly what you need. Let's shine some spotlight onto Dodrio today, a Pokemon rarely talked about and often forgotten, but not by me. Subscribe to the channel so that we can track down the past paradox form of Spoink Mottled Boar, who is currently on the run after stealing $1 million from the Pokemon Trampage. Thank you. Dodrio made its debut in the very first game. And I must say the sprite work, the pixel art here is looking fantastic. These heads have a lot of personality. Each one is doing something different. And in Gen 1 competitive, Dodrio is actually okay. It's decent. Normal is perhaps the best type in the game in Gen 1 because it simply has the best attacks and little drawbacks. Normal types are also immune to being paralyzed by Body Slam. Body Slam happens to be an elite level attack in this generation with its para chance and its fairly high power. And they also have Gen 1 Hyper Beam at their disposal, which has 150 base power and ignores the charge effect if you get a KO with it. Normal type stab damage is incredible this gen, and all the best Pokemon in the game are normal types: Tauros, Chansey, Snorlax, etc. Dodrio can kind of be like a mini Tauros. It has Body Slam and Hyper Beam and a pretty impressive attack stat of 110. Its speed is good with base 100 and it's extremely frail, but the power level is relatively low in this generation. And you can even come in on Earthquake thanks to flying typing, granting you immunity to ground. This is pretty damn impressive. Dodrio's biggest problem though is that unlike Tauros, it can't really pose much of a threat to common normal type answers. The big one is Rhydon. Rhydon is a rock type and rock resists normal. Tauros has Earthquake and Blizzard to hit it super effectively. Blizzard in particular will hit Rhydon extremely hard. Gengar also exists, a ghost type. Ghost is immune to normal, and Tauros has Earthquake to hit Gengar super effectively. Dodrio kinda gets destroyed by both of these Pokemon. You at least have Drill Peck for neutral damage against Gengar, but Rhydon is a serious problem for Dodrio. Rhydon also happens to resist flying, so you're doing negative damage with Dodrio. Even Persian is a more effective normal type threat into Rhydon because at least it has Bubble Beam, which hits it super effectively. Dodrio has nothing, so you put Dodrio on your team, you have to get rid of their Rhydon first to actually do much with this. Having an extra Tauros in the back pocket with Flying Stab on it can be alright though. It's fairly usable in OU, all things considered. It just requires a bit of planning, a bit of gaming to take down the checks and enable a sweep. And the fact that it has access to agility to double your speed also helps it in in-game situations. Agility can be used in Gen 1 to bypass the speed dropping effect of paralysis as well, so that is very useful. In Gen 2, Dodrio got a significant buff with this incredible animated sprite. Can we give a round of applause for this? These heads are so well defined. They're all talking, they're all going in different directions, and the central head, the leader, is very focused on what is in front of him, as he should be, as a good leader should be. Unfortunately, on the gameplay side of things, Dodrio is completely useless in Generation 2. The Smogon analysis for this is so funny, because this is clearly written by a fellow Dodrio head. It says, while Dodrio dies to basically any hit, if you can keep it from getting hit, it can deal a lot of damage to anything not resistant to its attacks. Yes, so yes, Dodrio dies to literally everything because it has no defenses, but if you use an attack with Dodrio, you can maybe deal damage to the enemy sometimes. That's incredible stuff, Dodrio. Now, this is... I can't even believe this has an OU analysis. This shouldn't be the case. Dodrio in Gen 2 is atrocious. Zapdos and Raikou are everywhere. Steel types exist now. The normal is not even good anymore as an offensive type. Gen 1 Hyper Beam no longer exists. Hyper Beam just makes you recharge. It sucks now. Why would you ever use this? Why would you use this? It's providing literally nothing to your team, and it's the easiest thing to stop in the world. A simple golem or something will put an entire stop to Dodrio's career path. However, in Generation 3, Dodrio is maybe at the peak of its power. I would say so. You could argue Gen 1 Dodrio is a little bit better, but I don't know. Gen 1 Dodrio feels limited. Gen 3 Dodrio is ranked in UUBL, and it's not the world's greatest thing in OU, but if you really want to, if you truly want to, if you're a sick individual, you can try to make Dodrio work, and probably have more success than anywhere else. In Gen 3, Dodrio gained the ability Early Bird, which is actually kind of useful here. In modern times, a very unexciting ability, especially because like Vital Spirit and Insomnia outclass it. Even back then, this was true, but this at least lets you come in on sleep moves and wake up pretty often, pretty soon, which is pretty useful against Breloom, who's a new Pokemon that exists now that clicks Spore, and it helps that you directly threaten and outrun Breloom, so that's kind of useful. Dodrio also has access to a cool new teammate in the form of Magneton. Magneton has Magnet Pull to trap steel types and get rid of them, most notably Skarmory. But even Forretress, Metagross, and Jirachi can find themselves falling to a Magneton in certain instances. With Magneton as a teammate, you can get rid of steel types that resist normal and flying, and now you are offensively much more threatening. Rock types are far less common as defensive Pokemon. In Gen 1 and 2, Rhydon is a strong defensive Pokemon. Golem is strong in Gen 2, but rock types aren't really defensive in Gen 3. You're more using steel types for that. And the most common rock type in the game is Tyranitar, the best Pokemon in Gen 3. But with physical hidden power fighting, because this is a pre-physical special split world, you can target Tyranitar and hit it super effectively, so even that is covered for you. Hidden power ground is another good option to hit steel types that are a bit harder to eliminate with from Magneton, such as Metagross Jirachi. Dodrio's hard-hitting stab of Return and Drill Peck is pretty alright. Some of the most common defensive walls in the game, like Swampert and Melodic, who are going to withstand hits from other physical threats, are in a little bit more trouble against Dodrio. You have a pretty high attack stat of 110 for this times. Baton Pass is another fantastic tool. This is a pivoting move. It can be used as well to pass on stat stage changes to allies. But Dodrio mostly uses this just to pivot out, because this can be used to actually catch Skarmory coming in. This is what makes Dodrio kind of interesting, because obviously, Skarmory is going to be invited in by this. Skarmory has high defense and resists all of its moves, but if you click Baton Pass and they go to Skarmory, you have just trapped them with Magneton guarantee. Dodrio is a pretty good Pokemon at luring in Skarmory and enabling this play. And you can also pivot out against other good defensive switch-ins, like Metagross. Maybe you can bring in Dugtrio. Maybe Gengar comes in and you bring in Pursuit Tyranitar. Dodrio invites in things and then pivots out, and you can go to your perfect punish, a Trapper, or something that generates aggression. Dodrio also has another interesting way to be used in Generation 3, and that is with this set right here, the Flail set. Flail is a crazy move that has very high potential. Flail has more power the less HP you have left. And if you manage to bring your Pokemon down to just 1 HP, Flail will have 200 base power, which is unbelievable. With stamp damage on top, that can be a game-winning thing if you can achieve that. The way you achieve that is with Substitute, a move that subtracts a quarter of your health to put a substitute shield in front of your face that shields you from incoming damage and status ailments. If you run an odd number of HP, a Substitute will deal just a little bit less than exactly 1/4 of your HP, and from full health, if you substitute repeatedly, you can achieve precisely 1 HP. activating Flail. Agility with this will raise your speed by 2. Hopefully, an ideal situation for this is that you bring Dodrio in on a choice-locked Pokemon that clicked Earthquake, like a Metagross or a Dugtrio. You click Agility, you substitute all the way down, and you eat a Lychee Berry. Lychee Berry raises your attack by 1 stage. You have +1 attack, and you are faster than the entire metagame, and you have Flail with 200 power on it, and even Hidden Power Ghost to hit the one thing that can stop you, which is Ghost-type Pokemon. This is a pretty funny and cool win condition, isn't it? But there's a big problem for this, of course, and that is Tyranitar. Sandstorm is up in the vast majority of Pokemon games in Gen 3, and Sandstorm deals chip damage to you. So, of course, if you substitute all the way down to 1 HP, if Sandstorm is active, you will just faint to the chip damage. You have no healing to counteract it. So Dodrio requires weather clearing. You have to get rid of their Tyranitar and then swap the weather to sun or rain, thus getting rid of the chip damage and allowing Dodrio to do this combo. So that's a lot of stuff to do to set up for Dodrio. And then is Dodrio even that good after that? It still has to find an opportunity to agility for free without losing any health, and then substitute all the way down to 1 without getting roared out or taunted or anything, and then it can sweep. So who are some good teammates for this? You of course need Magneton to get rid of Skarmory. Magneton is necessary so that Skarmory can't roll you out or just stop your sweep completely by resisting the normal type attack and defeating you. Skarmory's got to go. You also need a weather clear Pokemon, and I think the best candidate is usually Ludicolo, because Ludicolo with Rain Dance can run 2 good abilities, Swift Swim or Rain Dish. It's a pretty nice defensive Pokemon thanks to its access to Leech Seed and the fact it can check Metagross very well, which might be one of your other possible checks that you need to break through in an end game. Metagross can withstand a Flail and perhaps beat you. So Ludicolo not only clearing weather, but being effective against Metagross and also Leech Seeding against stuff like Snorlax and Blissey and what have you is very nice for the team. You could also run Weather Clear on the Magneton itself. You could just run Rain Dance or Sunny Day, but that's less reliable. I think with this Dodrio, you need a dedicated weather Pokemon, and Ludicolo would be the best. You also are gonna need Dugtrio, because Dugtrio is able to trap Tyranitar and hit it with Earthquake. Getting rid of Tyranitar is imperative. So this is like a double trap team already, with both Magneton and Dugtrio and Dodrio. It's got all the trios. It's got all 3 of the trio Pokemon. This triple trio offense idea is something that I have played quite a bit with. You know, I love Dodrio. I like to use it in any avenue I can. It is very, very all in. It is extremely unreliable, but boy is it epic. Pulling off a Flail Dodrio sweep is one of the greatest joys in gaming history. It's an incredible thing. It's worth noting that Dodrio is competing with similar Pokemon for this role of a Flail sweeper. Gyarados also has Flail. It doesn't have Stab on it, but Gyarados is a much better defensive Pokemon with access to Intimidate and a superior typing and stats. Reversal is also a similar move. Reversal is a fighting type version of Flail, and Heracross gets that. Heracross is usually the best weather clear threat with a berry. You run a Salac Berry on it. It not only gets Swarm boosted Megahorn, but you can run Reversal if you like as an alternative, a more accurate version that hits incredibly hard with 200 power if brought to 1 HP. Metacham can also do it. Metacham's more frail, but Metacham's Reversal hits like a cannonball shooting out of a cannon, which is a very damaging concept. I think Gen 3 is the peak of Dodrio. This is the best you're going to get, and it's also Dodrio at its most interesting and competitive. You have win condition Dodrio here that you can build around. You also have the enabler Dodrio with the pivoting that can assist trappers and assist a physical offense game plan. And I think that that is fun and admirable. Dodrio, of course, has so many shortcomings. It's outclassed by things like Aerodactyl and Salamence, and it has such frailty. But none of those Pokemon get Baton Pass, and they don't get Flail either. And they only have a single head. 3 heads are better than 1. So that's also something to consider. In Gen 4, Dodrio got another significant buff with the pixel art. Look at this sprite, so much personality. The central head is looking very smug, like he's got some authority in this situation and he knows it too. He looks like he's just tricked somebody and he's laughing at them like a villain. Rightmost head is a little bit more reserved. He doesn't want to get involved. He's a little bit ashamed to be next to central head. He doesn't want to be rude to people. Leftmost head is looking like an additional angry head, but he's not looking in front of him. He's looking to the side. Maybe he is scouting out the area for central head, who is the leader. I mean, not even Vincent van Gogh could hope to communicate so much to the audience in a single piece of visual art. I think that this is a masterpiece right here. Unfortunately, in terms of the Pokemon video game, this Pokemon is even more atrocious than before. Stealth Rock was introduced, which of course destroys Dodrio on entry. It was already frail, it already sucked at hitting the field, but now you're going to do 25% of its HP for simply trying to exist. I mean, I don't think it's very fair. As a normal flying type, Staraptor kind of stole the show as the new best one with its superior stats and move pool. It actually has close combat to hit steel types. Dodrio is stuck in the past. It's yesterday's bird. The ability Early Bird is feeling more and more useless. Even in the UU tier, Dodrio is finding itself outclassed by Swellow, who is much faster, has the ability Guts, has U-Turn and other such useful options. Dodrio does have the funny move Acupressure, which raises a random stat by 2. Maybe you can run an Acupressure Dodrio set and just roll Evasion, just get lucky, and win instantly off that. There's a theoretical chance that a Dodrio clicking Acupressure wins instantaneously, but that's bad odds. That's terrible odds. Dodrio is finding itself pretty much completely outclassed by other normal flying types now, such as Staraptor and Swellow. But it does have access to Taunt. It has access to Taunt. Can we give a round of applause, please? Taunt prevents the target from using non-attacking moves. That is one trait that Dodrio has over its competition. And there's Acupressure, and it has a higher attack stat than Swellow. It doesn't have to get the Flame Orb activated to hit hard immediately. In Generation 5, for the first time ever, we see Dodrio in full HD, animated, with multiple frames of animation. In Gen 5, Dodrio seems to be standing on a single leg. I have to say that central and leftmost head are looking pretty similar. They're not looking too different, and both are staring right ahead. Rightmost head is still the least aggressive of the heads, but this gives a lot of insight into how Dodrio operates. It's moving very erratically. It's all over the place. And maybe for flavor reasons, maybe because it fits with Dodrio's entire vibe here, they gave it the ability Tangled Feet in this generation, which grants evasiveness if you are confused. It's a horrendous ability that's never worked even a single time in human history. I don't know why they give Pokemon this, but they gave it to Dodrio, and it wasn't very good, and Dodrio sucks. It's in the PU tier, but you're never going to guess what happened in Gen 6. Dodrio 3D. This is a moment that will rival historic feats like the moon landing. I gotta be honest, I'm not too fond of the 3D model, actually, looking at it. I think that the pixel art had a little bit more personality going on. Dodrio is just standing up. The rightmost head, what happened in between games? Rightmost head is angry about something and is continuously biting in front of it. Preemptively. No one's even attacking him, and he feels the need to do that. That's an interesting development. But I gotta be honest, from this point on, there is zero to say about Dodrio. They have given it nothing for a very long time. I would love to see a Dodrio buff. Mega Dodrio would go crazy. I would love Mega Dodrio if they do bring back Megas. Paradox Dodrio? Quadruple heads? Fourth head? That would shake the very foundations of what we know to be true. A fourth head on Dodrio. At least they did have the decency to put Dodrio in Gen 9. A lot of Pokemon are not even in Gen 9. They've just sort of forgotten they exist. Dodrio in the current day in Gen 9 is ranked in the ZU tier. It's as low as you can get. It has not enough usage to be even PU. It's really a fall from grace for our favorite three-headed birds. It has the new move Trailblaze, which raises speed. It's got knockoff since Gen 6. It can Swords Dance up. But me and you both know that this is... I'm just saying words and they don't really mean anything. It doesn't make Dodrio any better. We can't lie to ourselves. Of all the original 151 Pokemon, Dodrio might be among the most forgettable. Nobody gives a second thought, let alone a third thought, to a Pokemon like Dodrio. It's just a three-headed bird. They didn't give it anything over the years. They don't even remember it exists. The incredibly simple and one-dimensional way that this Pokemon plays in-game does reflect its visual appearance. It is just a simple bird in the Pokemon universe. It may have 3 heads, but there's not much else to say about Dodrio. But I think it's fun that this Pokemon ever had anything to do. I am aware of one instance of Dodrio being used in a Gen 3 OU tournament by the player Jabba. He did lose. He did lose the game. But Dodrio was there. Dodrio was present. And I believe that worldwide there are at least 3 Dodrio fans on the planet, me among them. And if Dodrio has no fans remaining, you know that I have perished in some terrible way. This fictional 3-headed bird has captured my heart. And while most think nothing of this Pokemon, perhaps one day Dodrio will make its mark on the history books. A Dodriopoly, if you will. Thank you for watching.